Oh, there we go. You're recording. Awesome, right. Me. Now it's got it.
You counting down?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, and in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to another E5 Group podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Dan Jackson, aka Dan's the Engineer, and I am welcomed today by Paul Meenan. Hello, Paul.
Hello there.
And David Watts. How you doing, Dave?
Hey guys, I'm fine. How are you?
Very good. Very, very good. Right, so I've been hiding from this topic for a long time. I don't read the news. I try not to pay attention. But we're talking about the virus, the coronavirus that the World Health Organization have declared as a global pandemic. We can't ignore it anymore. And what hit me today is I went on a train to London and the train was half full and the tube was half full. It's clear there's a lot happening about this. And
So where is everybody?
You tell me, Dave. I think they're at home. I hope they're at home. I hope they haven't been taken away by zombies or something. I don't know. And I actually spent today writing company procedures for a company that I'm working for, on what they're doing about it to their clients and also to employees. So I can't ignore this anymore.
It's a bit unfamiliar territory to start writing stuff about, though, isn't it, for you? I mean, where are you going to for that?
A lot of it's from the Gov website, which is changing very quickly.
Doesn't it get updated every day at 2:00? I think that's when they update
Something
the
like
stats.
That. Yeah, something like that. And obviously, I'm completely out of my depth, if I'm honest. But the point is, this is something that companies have to address, whether you're a one-man band or you're employing 100 people. It's something we have to address. And by the way, I want to say to listeners, this is not us giving advice as the E5 Group. This is just a general discussion between me, Paul, and Dave.
Okay, well, it's probably just best we go around the room and, well, what is it? We're going to upload this pretty much straight away?
Yeah.
Or tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right, so what is it? It's Thursday the 12th of March. It's the end of the first day of Elects. I didn't go. Paul's going to go tomorrow. So let's just go around the three of us. How long have we known about this, and have we been in any way taking measures or protocols or doing anything different up to now?
Okay, I'll start with this one. Until today, I've done absolutely nothing different. However, I've had a trip to the Alps to the Grenoble Schneider factory cancelled by Schneider. An event that's supposed to be at the beginning of April in Paris cancelled. ACO have cancelled an event. You were going to that as well, Dave, weren't you?
Yep.
In May, and also there was another one, the fire safety, whatever it's called, event at the NEC.
And some of these are not actually for months, are they? I think the ICO one was towards the end of May.
Yeah,
but they're actually, this is the concern here. What about you, Paul?
I've just been carrying on regardless, I suppose, really. I mean, last week I was in Devon, and I'll be honest, I actually had a small cold because I stayed in a 300-plus-year-old inn where it was freezing cold, and I had a little sniffle, but it was a normal cold, and I'm fine. And yeah, I came back. I've been into work. I've been on sites. Today, I've worked from home, and I've done Skype calls into work because I find with the triple monitor setup, I'm more efficient and I can do things and stuff. I haven't really done much. The trouble is I think the only this whole coronavirus. Some people I know are panicking and freaking. Some are fear mongering. Some are chilled out, don't worry, be happy type folks. This to me is becoming in the workplace what is sometimes known in contracts as almost like a force majeure, which is an unforeseeable circumstance within a contract that prevents someone doing things. And I have a weird feeling based on what we're seeing at the moment in the press and, the people talking about quarantines. I think a lot of force majeures in the workplace are going to be happening for people who are engaged in some form of contract that have deadlines to meet. Because you're talking about empty trains. I've noticed the trains are emptier, and I think naturally people are always worried. The one thing that made me realise there was a public issue was when I got home. I dropped my missus home and I went to Tesco's at about 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. And I walked in and I just did a normal shop because we weren't really paying much attention. And I literally went to the toilet aisle and there was a guy standing there and there was no toilet roll. And I was like, is there any toilet roll? And he went, oh yeah, there's just some in the cages. How many packs do you want? I went, one. I just want one. And he went, oh right, oh okay. Have you not been watching news? I went, no, I've just driven back from Devon. He went, oh, they're infected too. And I went, what? And he was like, oh, the coronavirus. And I'd heard of it before I left, but I didn't think anything of it. And it's fairly evident. I mean, my missus went shopping tonight. All the shelves are empty. Everybody's watching each other's trolleys. But what people are doing is they're not bulk buying. What my missus was told by her work colleagues is they're going and doing a shop in Tesco's. Then they're going to Asda. Then they're going to Sainsbury's. And then they're going back to Tesco's. Because anyone who tries to compulsory bulk buy are getting challenged in the supermarkets by other people for being reckless. And that's what I've seen happen just in the last few days. So for me, having watched the news and Boris Johnson's talk today with his scientists, I think there's something coming, but how to measure it, my view, keep calm and carry on. That's all we can do.
So what do you think about when you see, I mean, I've just watched the Manchester United game on BT Sport, which was behind closed doors, followed by Wolves, which was behind closed doors. So the football games are being played behind closed doors in Europe. And they're already talking now about maybe next week or in 2 weeks, maybe postponing the season. In the US, it's all postponed. They're closing.
Whoa. You've watched Man United play.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Who watches Man United play?
It's football on TV.
Man, seriously.
Kind of missing the point here, Paul.
Have a bit of class. No, I am.
I like to watch teams that win trophies, Paul.
Cut me and I bleed. Why don't you? No. I did notice this morning on Good Morning Britain that they've cancelled the La Liga. Is it Italian football or Spanish football season? But yeah, I think some places are taking that responsibility on for themselves, aren't they? Some.
So are they? You know, I mean, you say carry on regardless. Are they?
Well,
going
to an extent, you have to. No, I think it's the whole duty of care. This is the trouble. Is at the moment they're talking about tracking how it's being spread. And I think if there is a number of people who attend a football game or a major event, and 200 people of the 500 that attend develop something and have their lives altered for it, then they're scared that there'll be a liability. We're in a claim society, aren't we? We're in a suing society.
That's the big point of it, isn't it? I think after the budget, I think Nicola Sturgeon, or whatever her name is, she said she's going to put a ban on any events that would have 500 or more people together, or just a postponement. I know there's a lot of negative press last night because obviously in the Northwest there was a Liverpool game and it was against Atletico Madrid, and that obviously was with the crowd. So you had a few thousand people from Madrid travel over.
Oh, really?
And Madrid has got quite a high mortality rate, clearly because it's going into the old folks' home where people are actually pretty unwell, but it is quite severe. So there's a lot, there is a lot of fear, but I think there's frustration obviously in the UK because we're told to carry on. I've been trying to communicate with my boys' school. Not that I want to know when they're going to close, but I want to know what they are doing so that I can have that comfort that I haven't got to say, are they doing anything?
Yeah.
So they've been telling us for a couple of days we're going with the government's advice, but they've actually just today said we're about to have a meeting with all the heads in the local area because I think they think that the government isn't doing enough. Because a school...
there's a lot to do, isn't there?
Yeah, but a school across the town has closed today because, again, a mother flew home from Italy and then sent her kid to school. So now they've got to clean down the school. It's supposed to be reopening next week. God. But these little bits of what you could just, it's just lack of consideration about spreading it.
Yeah,
I think that's what they're trying to, instead of trying to create a fear or a scaremongering, we need to make people aware of how easy it is to spread.
I did watch the Boris Johnson thing with his scientific advisors, and there was an interesting comment he made about closing schools. You know, how can you close schools for a number of weeks to stop this spreading, and then you then transfer the risk to the vulnerable, because if kids are taken out of school, they'll naturally spend more time with their elders, their grandparents who are more vulnerable.
At the same time,
really
though,
interesting view.
Yeah, but the other side of that is kids. Schools are where infestations actually, infections grow.
Very true.
My kids are always bringing bugs home from school. You send a kid to school with it, and then all those kids will go home. They'll give it to their parents. Their parents will go to work.
Oh wow.
Yeah, my kids are always coming home with the latest cold or bug. They're the ones making me ill all the time. So you think about how schools are, where they get. I mean, my boys' school is pretty small as well, so they're all in a close confined space, and they're not hygiene wise. They're not following the rules like we're supposed to follow right now with 20-second hand washings and things. Stuff gets spread very easily.
Well, I remember when I was a kid in school, if you were ill and you went into school, you got literally thrown out the gate and told to go home.
My boys' school, if they throw up or have diarrhea, the policy is to have 48 hours away, so they don't come back tomorrow. They go the day after.
Oh, wow. There was a big thing in my daughter's school recently that if you've got tonsillitis, you're good enough to come to school. And things like that. They were basically saying they're absent, whatever it is, what their targets was not good enough, and children were basically told, unless you're you can't get out of the house, you have to come to school, which is just ridiculous.
It is something they focus on a lot, because my boys' school report, they get this green, amber, red system, and green for attendance is 98% or more.
Yeah,
and 95 to 98% is amber. To me, that's a bloody good attendance.
But I think it's just targets, isn't it?
It's all targets.
Targets for school, but that's not looking after the individual. Of children.
That's not looking after the well-being of the child at all.
Yeah. But so anyway, we obviously, our audience or listeners, shall we say, are electricians. So there's a couple of things that come to mind about this, and obviously what I've kind of experienced today. The first one is the statutory duty of care you have as a business owner, whether you're a self-employed one-man band, or you have 10 people, or you have 100 people working for you. You have a statutory duty of care for the welfare of your employees. The other thing that sort of comes to mind is that a lot of tradesmen and tradeswomen are traveling around quite a lot. You might, the type of places that you work in, you might be, more highly exposed to the virus, wherever it is or whatever it is. And I think that you can't ignore it right now after seeing today and going into London. It's not something that can be ignored. So in terms of statutory duty of care, Paul, what's your thoughts on that?
Regulation 2, Health and Safety at Work Act, which is really sad of me to say that out loud. Health and Safety at Work Act, the trouble is all of the duty of cares were never written for this type of force majeure, this unknown event. So yes, there is an absolute requirement for an employer to protect not just the safety part where you do all your PPE, but the health, but define it, because for a worker let's say you're an electrician in a factory. If you're in a factory, your health must be protected against hazards or issues that can arise in that workplace. But nobody's really thought about I'd be very surprised to see a policy or a document on a potential pandemic, unless in an emergency business plan where the business is under threat. For a one-man band, it's a threat to their survival. It's a threat to them earning money, because I've actually spoken to a couple of one-man bands, and one of them was undecided. One of them was like, "This is going to damage my business. Everyone's going to stay at home. No one's going to be spending any money." And another guy was like, "Great, everyone's going to be staying at home. They're going to want all the jobs doing around their house. So I'm going to get work." It was two different viewpoints from two sole traders, and I have to say I didn't, because I'm not a sole trading spark anymore. I don't know which one will come true. I mean, there will probably be parts of this country where people will say, right, well, we're going to be isolated at home. Does that prevent us getting tradesmen in? I don't know, because it depends on the mentality of and the common sense of people. And if you look at the shops, and the way people are shopping. And if you look at the transport network, you could argue that people are going into survivalist mode, protectionist mode.
Yeah, I would anticipate that if someone's been told to self-isolate, they would probably, I'm guessing, but they probably would take it that level, the extra level of seriousness with regards to not having other persons come into their bubble.
Yeah.
But for those who go home because work's shut down, or business is down, or schools are shut, so you've got to be at home, they probably will have a much more relaxed approach to this as being I've got to do something while I'm at home. And it could be that they do a little bit of work.
A couple of
get some work done.
Sole traders that I've spoken to, they literally I can't afford not to go to work.
Yeah,
and they don't allow for
this is the
a
thing.
few days.
We are with the way the economy is for the self-employed, sole trading person, or even people with small limited businesses. This kind of thing isn't really in the financial arrangement plan. It's not in
obviously, and obviously you work for yourself, Dave, and so do I. Yeah. So if I'm at home, I've got work to do at home, so it's not too bad. But other people, for example, it is a worry.
Well, for me, money's not going to last much longer in the bank. I've had 4 courses cancelled now.
4
courses cancelled.
Because
business, businesses are cancelling exhibitions and events. They're cancelling meetings, they're cancelling arrangements, they're cancelling plans because they don't know what's happening next week right now because there's just that lack of communication, lack of understanding. So they're cancelling what they think they may have to cancel.
Yeah,
they're cancelling it ahead. So if I've got a course, we said ICO, they're cancelling an event that's happening at the end of May. So people who have got courses, they're going, oh well, no, we'll cancel for now because it's it's better than do it now than not knowing. And so on the flip side, if I had my home run business, which I'm supposed to be developing closer to completion, this would be a great time for me to test it to see if I can run it, but it's not ready. Yeah. So I'm in a sticky position right now, I guess, and I won't really know until I figure out what's going to happen. I don't know.
And I think that is the worry for a lot of others as well who will be listening.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, going through, we kind of didn't come back to me. We talked about what I've done about this. I knew about this back at the turn of the new year because my mum is fully into looking at news around the world. She follows all of the US governments. She finds it a lot more interesting than ours. And then she looked at China and she looked at this and she's followed the illness across Asia and she's been tracking the mortality rates. And she's been saying it's going to happen. So she's been saying, get extra Calpol for the boys, get extra paracetamols, get some of this. So I mentioned it to Bella a couple of times, but Bella started actually listening 2 weeks ago. So we've got stock. Not like these, the people attacking the toilet rolls. We've got stock. But the problem I have is I've got 4 young lads, and when it's breakfast time, there goes a full pint of milk.
Yeah.
If I open up a pack of something, because one of them's hungry, the whole pack goes. And if we're all going to be in the house, the food won't last that long.
Yeah,
won't last that long. And so but I say to Bella, I said, look, let's just get ourselves repaired medically. So we've got they've got the Calpol. Thing is, like with Tesco's, you can't actually you can't buy more than 2 things that are paracetamol at once.
Yeah.
So, and I've got 4 boys. So I've got one that's, make sure I get this right. They're 2, 4, 6, and 8. So I've got a 2 and a 4-year-old that have to have the Calpol up to 5 or 6. I've got a 6 and 8-year-old has to have the over. So I have to have 2 bottles for those. And if I want anything for me and Bella, not allowed. I've got to then go back to the till and buy again. So try and stock up with this. Thankfully, she's been doing the WhatsApp. She's been talking to the mums. A lot of the mums over the last couple of days have been going, "Oh shit, this is actually a big thing," because they're watching the Twitter, they're watching the news, and these people running into shops, grabbing all the stuff. It's creating a panic.
Yeah,
their panic is creating panic.
And even I said to myself, like, I'm not going to start panic buying, but I went into Tesco's and literally there's no pasta, there's nothing. And I'm vegan and even though there's a massive amount of choice, there's still less choice. And all the fruit and veg, it's pretty much empty.
Pretty
much empty. And obviously fruit and veg these days from supermarkets only last a couple of days anyway. So, it is interesting, but trying to just keep chilled and whatever. So
that's the key thing, and I've been, I decided today because I was supposed to go to Alex, but I was talking to Bella yesterday, and I got up this morning, I got dressed to go, and I was like, look, I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna get there, I'm gonna do the talk, and I'm gonna leave. So I'll only be there for 45 minutes to an hour. But Bella said, look, if you're gonna go, you may as well, the boys may as well go as well, because you won't know if you've caught anything or had any engagement for 10 or so days, because that's the way this thing's working. If you actually do catch anything, it doesn't manifest straight away. You'd have to,
Yeah.
So she kind of just told me right at the end, and I went, I can't do that. I can't take that risk.
Yeah.
No,
for the kids, And just to finish off, my mother actually has. She was going through her second stint of chemo last year. She has severe COPD issues. She has severe respiratory problems, and she's been told by her hospital. She's been told over the phone to actually self-isolate herself, self-isolate, because if she actually catches this virus, they pretty much told her she will be one of these statistics, because the mortality rate is, it's like 90% of people in her condition, because she wakes up every day needing steroids to breathe.
Oh wow!
So when you add the fibrosis to this, she's dead. So I've been aware of this for a while, because I've been trying to kind of provide for her and get her some bits in. She's not been able to go out, not been able to go and see the doctors. We've had to run around with her. And it is, for the people who are vulnerable, this is a real issue.
With lower immune systems, but also as an electrician, if you're working in these premises and you could be a carrier and you're a healthy, fit person or whatever, and you're carrying that virus, because a lot of us carry viruses and we don't have symptoms, but we're just carriers. And I'm just looking at there's a website called, I've just kind of Googled it, Worldometer's coronavirus, and it's saying that there's 590 cases of coronavirus in the UK. There's 10 deaths and 18 recovered. I mean, bear in mind, this is the 12th of March in the evening. I mean, that is quite a frightening rate, really, of deaths.
This is the thing. People will say it's not that bad as flu, but the real problem is the amount that catch and the mortality rate for that number.
So there was in the press conference earlier on with Boris Johnson, his scientific advisor even said there could be potentially 10,000 people in the UK carrying this. But because of I think it's so different and unique the way it's developing as a new virus. It's catching people unawares, and we're in that silly transition from winter into spring where people do naturally get colds and flu. Because I had a cold last week, but it was in every fibre of my being a good old-fashioned cold.
Standard cold. Yeah,
a 5-day cold. A bit of sniffling, bit of this, that, and the other, but a cold, and I still just plundered on through. It was not an issue. This one is slightly different, because the NHS website at the moment, the advice was a bit disturbing, because it was like they say stay at home for 7 days if you've either got a high temperature or a new continuous cough. And there's obviously been loads of stuff that's gone around on social media about the way it metastasizes in your lungs if you hold your breath for like 20 seconds or whatever. And, that was going around on the WhatsApps. I don't know if that's any proven theory, but it only tells you to ring 111, which is the NHS coronavirus service, if you feel you can't cope with your symptoms or they get worse.
Yeah, well, the fundamental thing they'll say is don't go to doctors, don't go to hospital, because if you think you've got it, stay at home.
So how do you get tested for it?
They can then arrange for that.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They don't want, if you think. I mean, this is one of the things. Again, a month or so ago, people. I think one of the first persons in the UK or something. I think someone came home from China and just went to hospital in an Uber or something. I heard that. Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but I remember hearing that. And this is the problem. People don't have so much information or guidance on this. They're just jumping on the public transport. They're just doing, using the amenities that they normally have available. There's no other support for them. And it's. But when you say to people, "Oh, isolate yourselves," that's just a very scary thing for people to actually think about.
Yeah, especially when you've got families.
Yeah, when you say isolate, you've got families to think about. You've got to feed them, but then you've got money.
Yeah, and I was speaking to an administrator for a company, and she said that her school are talking about closing, which means that she'd have to go and look after her child. And she said, I can't afford not to be at work. And so I looked on the Gov website, and it says there are statutory sick pay allowances. So I'm on the Gov website right now, and it says that for businesses who are paying statutory sick pay, there'll be a refund of cover up to 2 weeks per eligible employee who has been off work because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, I was watching a guy on Sky News before we started this podcast, and he went through that. But he said the statutory sick pay from day one would be for those who are actually told to self-isolate because they have it. If people go on isolation with by choice, then there's not so much of an entitlement, is what he said.
Yeah, but
okay,
that's
also confusing because the Gov website now says that employees will not need to provide a GP fit note.
GPs don't like giving out fit notes anymore. Because that's stopped a long time ago. Because you used to have to, if you were ill and off work, you had to go to the doctor and get a sick note, and then it was eventually they realised it's stupid because if they're ill, they'll stay away from the doctor or they will attend to get whatever medicine, and then they have to go back. So then they changed it to fit note. So I was once ill and I went back to work and I was told to go home until I got a fit for work note. Then I went to the doctor and the doctor went, no, we don't do these anymore. It's just a way. It was draining their resources. People were making appointments, which was using up valuable appointment time for people who were ill. But the statutory sick pay, just on that, it's like £94 a week.
It's crap, isn't it?
How do you pay a mortgage?
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. It's nothing. And again, within our industry, it's very, very unlikely to be working for a company as PAYE and be paid full pay when you're sick. No. It is so rare. I mean, if you get a company that does that, fair play. But
this is
I do.
I
do.
But this is the problem.
It's rare though, Paul. It's rare.
I know.
Yeah. But this is the problem. So if you've got guys that can't afford to go home, unless they're actually told by employers, but so many people will be subcontract, some people will be self-employed subcontract, on that kind of basis. They'll know if they decide to go home and isolate that unless the job's shut down, they're losing their jobs.
They won't. The trouble is the self-employed tradesman won't risk not being able to feed his family.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
Which will then put pressure on this virus because people are going to spread it.
This opens up a potential, and this is probably going to be controversial. But I'm going to say it anyway because it's my thought process. 30, 40 years ago, when we didn't have self-employed traders as such, we had limited companies, father and son, parent companies. If this sort of thing happened, the government looked after everybody. But now there are so many different methods of employment, subcontracting, procuring people, that if the cogs on the machine jam up, like what is potentially happening now, it derails so many people's lives that the government can't control.
And I know this is very easy for me to say, and without going into too much detail, but when I'm speaking to the electrical and firearm companies, business owners, I'm always encouraging to seek the most, I know this sounds obvious, but the most profitable work. So there's good profit in the work that you do. And the reason being is because you've got a kitty of money that you can play with in the event of a problem. And it could be as simple as, besides this, but one of your guys is having a bit of a rough time with his family. You don't want to increase additional pressure, so you can let him have time off and still pay him. Just for that thing, and it creates good morale. You get good productivity. But obviously, in this game, margins are so bloody tight, tight, especially in construction. Construction is one of the worst.
Dare we also address the major issue of major construction sites? Is a lot of the labour on there. A lot of them are not in their first language is not English. On a lot of the major construction projects, they work week to week, paycheck to paycheck. If they start shutting down the major construction projects, the tower block builds, there's going to be some serious issues.
Yeah, this is a massive economical problem. it's going to cost a lot.
So just on that, I mean, we're not politicians, but just reading the available information on the government website, the government has set out £12 billion of temporary measures just around this COVID. And it says they're going to provide any extra resources needed by the NHS. I'm reading this verbatim. A COVID-19 response fund set at £5 billion, which is probably going to get soaked up in a matter of weeks. Maintaining staffing levels, local authority actions to support social care. This is all good and dandy. Where do all these mystical people come from? Unless you cancel all annual leave and we've only got a finite resource that's working on shift. The only way of bumping that resource up is doing what they do with the police when there's, like during the riots, they cancelled all leave for all police for weeks. And then all of a sudden there was lots of police. But they've got 40 million of new funding for the National Institute of Health Research. Again, how many hundreds of millions of pounds, if not billions, is pumped into cancer research? And then a commitment of up to £150 million to some international monetary fund as well to stop further transmission. It sounds like a lot, but it doesn't in the same breath as well. But they have said as well, again, reading this out, statutory sick pay will be available for eligible individuals diagnosed with it, or those who are able to work because they're self-isolating in line with government advice.
Diagnosed by who?
Diagnosed with COVID-19. All those. So basically, if you're tested and diagnosed with it, you get statutory sick pay. Although if you self-isolate, you can also get it. So basically everyone.
Basically everyone who.
But I'm sure claiming it's going to be really difficult. And the mass of people claiming it, who's going to process it?
The pot's not big enough for that.
Well, it also then says people who are advised to self-isolate for COVID will soon be able to obtain an alternative to the fit note. To cover this by contacting NHS 111 rather than visiting a doctor, because doctors won't do them. Those who are not eligible for statutory sick pay, for example, the self-employed or people earning below the lower earnings limit of £118 per week, can now make a claim for universal credit, support allowance, or contributory employment.
It ain't going to be quick, though, is it?
No. How do they pay their bills in the meantime? Doesn't make sense. And you're looking at contributory employment and support allowance is £73.10 a week if you're over 25. I can't see this being. There's a £500 million hardship fund for local authorities. Okay. But it seems to be loads for business. Lots of packages for small, medium-sized businesses to reclaim statutory sick pay. That's great. The refund will cover up to 2 weeks. Employers with fewer than 250 employees will be eligible. Employers will be able to reclaim expenditure for employees who claim statutory sick pay.
Is this the Gov website?
This is the Gov website, yeah. Publications, it's called Support for Those Affected by COVID-19. It also says employers should maintain records of staff absences, but employees will not need to provide a fit note. Eligible period for scheme will commence the day after the regulations on the extension of sick pay come into force. What? So they're obviously bringing in some new legislation for this. The government will work with employers over the coming months to set up a repayment mechanism.
Yeah, so I've looked up a few things about this, about helping cash flow and stuff like that, because it's going to affect businesses one way or the other. Well, if you haven't got the staff in, they can't do the work. Yeah.
There seems to be a lot of support for businesses. A lot. There's more bullet points for businesses than there is anything else, to be honest with you. The government will increase business rate retail discount to 100% for 1 year, expanding it to leisure and hospitality sectors. Increasing a plan rate discount for pubs to 5. So if they're telling us not to gather, if the advice eventually says don't gather, how does that help businesses exactly? If this goes on for a while, I don't know. I think the more you read into this, the more worrying it becomes. But again, it's all potential, isn't it? It's all.
And I was hoping that this podcast wouldn't increase people's levels of scaremongering either. But I think
let's repeat the disclaimer. Everything we're saying is from the gov.uk website or NHS website. These are not our views.
And I think as a professional working, you you have got to look at this stuff. You can't turn a blind eye. I've been trying to turn a blind eye as much as I can, but going into London today, it's an absolute no. And there's been clients for my client asking for their company procedures on what they're doing. And they're having to provide what they're doing to meet government guidance. So there's going to be some chatting with the engineers. They're all mobile engineers as well around London. It's highly likely they're going to be bumping into the vulnerable.
The trouble is, Dan, it's all speculative. I mean, what can you actually do for a mobile engineer? Let's say you're a mobile engineer driving around London. So you've got some hand gel, some antibacterial hand gel, which a lot of people will have in their vans anyway, or big wipes, which is good at killing 99.9% of bacteria, apparently, according to their advertising, although we're not sponsored by them. But they're really good wipes. So what additional measures can you do other than, hiding? And if you do hide for 7 days, what happens if you then go into self-isolation? You don't have the symptoms. You then come out, and then you get the symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, it's tricky, and
that's why they're talking months.
And this is the thing: if you've got, say, 10 engineers, mobile engineers, realistically, you as a business, you can't say, right, you're all going home, lads.
But that's what happened. Did you see last week? There was I think it was a company in Surrey. The minute this coronavirus started to swell up, I think they wrote letters to all their staff and sacked them.
Wasn't it a truck?
It was good.
A truck company.
Yeah. They couldn't take the financial loss, so they just called it quits before it even hit them.
Jesus Christ.
And they wrote to all their staff and just said, see you later.
So
we've seen a number of companies kind of reacting to this. We know a couple didn't turn up to Alex, but some other companies, like one of the instrument companies, I think Test Meter, they put on Facebook today that there's a much smaller amount of people in the office because they basically told everybody to try and work from home.
Yeah,
and this is saying a lot. I mean, some businesses, again, ideally, I'd be prepared to do that. I'm not quite ready for that, but if businesses had some way to allow people employed to work mobile, and they can then make them work from home, that's something that can really go in favour of minimising the extent of exposure.
Yeah. And I mean, I actually do a lot of my meetings via Skype now anyway. When I'm speaking to whoever, I mean, obviously I meet people face to face, but Skype. But that's fine for me.
We just look at Hollywood. I mean, remember Demolition Man?
Oh yeah.
The gesture, the good,
the seashells.
Yeah. What was the hello message that they would when they'd meet up?
Oh, God.
I'm not following at all.
Be well, or something. I can't remember.
Be well, John Spartan.
Yeah, right. But there was no at greetings. There was no physical contact. No, and I've seen on the news. I've seen on the news today. Prince Charles. The instinct is to shake hands, but he's putting his hand together like a little prayer to people when he's beating them. He's trying to avoid that contact.
That's how I greet people anyway.
There needs to be some level of sensible consideration with restraint, considering how your business works. Think about, can you convert your business to a distance working platform, or can you support distance working? Can you structure your business that way? If you can't, you've got to think of what other measures you can do.
What about taking the negatives and making them the positives? I mean, there are a lot of companies who won't consider distance working, home working, etc. But I mean, I'm lucky. I'm working from home today. I've got a good boss, and I've got meetings next week on sites. But I also have the flexibility to work from home, which is really good. Yep. Now, we were talking today actually at work about how this is going to affect us, and the positive thing about working from home, if you did have to self-isolate, was actually we've got enough work to be getting on with anyway, so you can just lock yourself away and still do it. Now, I know a lot of people listen and go, well, I'm a tradesman, I can't do that. Obviously, it doesn't work for everyone, but for those who are managing or doing engineering or working on large jobs, there is, I think, the technology now and the ability to still network and do meetings, but the physical work and the physical interaction, I think most companies, the minute it kicks off near them, they're just going to close up shop.
Yeah, but again, I mean, what we can do is strategize that if anything like this comes again, once we've got out of this, we can strategize. You know when you go to a site and there's a CDM construction site on the site, So it's all taped off, no access, no permissions. Yeah, we'd have to do something like that with this. So if there was any other potential outbreak, then obviously the teams and the workers would be down to a skeletal number, and other persons' administrations and meetings would be done from distance. And then the persons on site, there'd be some kind of clean down, wash down, tear down. And, it can be done to manage engineering projects when these kind of things happen. It's just we've not prepared for it this time. No, moving forward, you can do that. You can cage off construction, and you can let people wash as they arrive. It's like in the food industry where people work in the pre-cooked and the cooked. There is a line where they can't cross, and you can
even asbestos workers.
They're cleaning before and after, aren't they? They're thorough with how they do things. I think there's lots of civil engineering and major construction sites that can carry on because they have huge welfare cabins that literally they make the people walk through to get to site before and after. They go to the point where they even have different types of hand cream and sun cream in them and all that on the major sites. And the major sites are well prepared for it.
And you have to wash your hands with using the right ones and the right sequence.
That's right. Yeah.
Again, this can be, if this kind of thing carries on or comes back, this can be controlled. We can strategize that if we take it seriously and plan for it.
And I think it comes down to good old-fashioned risk assessment.
I agree.
On all your activities, it's going to management or whoever has to come and risk assess each activity.
Yep.
And we're always doing it. We're always doing it. Anyone who works construction, electrical, or anything, we're always risk assessing constantly. We just don't perceive it sometimes that we are risk assessing. It is. It's a natural thing. It's that human instinct. Just from a strategy perspective, what could we do if this sort of thing happened again? And obviously the economy is dependent on my brain's churning up some weird. Do you know what my brain's telling me now? What? Why couldn't we have in consumer units an insulation monitoring device that monitors the fixed electrical wiring in people's homes, and then when it gets to a point where it needs to be visually inspected, functionally checked, it can message an electrician to come out, hence reduce exposure but maintain safety. There you go, trademark E5, by the way, for that idea. Because you can get insulation monitoring devices.
It's just money.
If you could get a device that monitors the insulation downstream, is connected to the earthing system and can effectively monitor the earthing of the fixed installation, and you could program it digitally, surely you could effectively almost have a smart board which then literally would email or connect to whoever your chosen electrician is.
Doesn't that just kind of take engineering judgment further away from...
No, what it does is it gets it accessed when it's needed, and it allows the installation to be less at risk from drive-bys to a certain extent. I'm just chucking things out here.
I just literally worry that I remember when I first started out as an electrician, didn't have sat-navs, used to have a big A to Z, the big country map. You drive to Birmingham and you'd find a local A to Z, you'd buy it. And then old Tom and Garmin come in, and now literally Google tells you where to go. And I'm just, as technology's going on, basically these apps and stuff are telling us what to do, not the other way around.
Well, they tell me what to do. I can tell you that for nothing. I tell them where to go.
Mine does. I've probably driven on every road in this blooming country, but I often will go to a course. I'll be talking to guys, and halfway through the day, I'll be going to the guys, "Where am I?" Because I entered the postcode and I followed the voice. And I just went down the road, and I actually, I remember when I do the 18th edition course, and I go to do the protection against overvoltage. We do the lightning flash density map of the UK. I go, right, guys, and I look at the map of the UK, and I go, hang on, I don't know where I am. So I'll ask the guys where I am, and we do rely on technology a lot.
I just feel it's taking us. It just makes people stupid.
And obviously, what we have now is obviously we have. I mean, we've been trying to wait for the government in this case to give us something, give us guidance, give us instruction, give us information. But at the same time, when we're waiting for that, we'll go on Twitter, we'll go on social media, we'll look at the news in the East, we'll look at the news in the US. We're just, we're privy to so much more information.
I think from my perspective, I think it's good to have a naturally healthy curiosity into what's going on. But I think you can't let fear rule your life.
Yeah.
I think that would be my message to people: is you can't let fear rule your life. You've got to be sensible. You've got to be pragmatic. You can't cause harm to other people for some selfish whim. However, if this kicks off, we're going to enter a silly season where people are going to take unnecessary risks. But again, we just have to see how it plays out. I do think this is going to make, and again, it's just my personal opinion, I think this is going to make government, when we're through this, realise and think about how employment is conducted in this country.
You think it will?
Yeah, I think it will. If you look now, what was it? If you look at projects like High Speed 2, High Speed 2 are now saying that they don't want any self-employed electricians at all. They want everyone on the books. There is a drive now to be bringing people back. Look at IR35. IR35 hit the public sector a few years ago, decimated the public sector. Now it's hitting the private sector. I was talking to a friend of mine who got let go 2 weeks ago from a major electrical organisation, huge, one of the biggest in the country. 40 people were rung up on a Monday morning and told, don't bother coming in. And when he asked why, and he was a supervisor, they just said IR35 new policy.
Jesus.
And the managers were on holiday, and that was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And these are engineers. So there are sparks out there available looking for work, but they can't work because of this IR35 policy that the company just dropped. All of a sudden, HR got hold of him and went, oh, we've got 40-odd blokes
and
in IR35.
What I've noticed with that, Paul, as well, a lot of companies, they are offering those self-employed to go employed, but the money is drastically less, drastically. We're talking sometimes 20k less a year. I think some people are exploiting that as well.
Massive. Yeah, I think they are. There will always be people who will exploit, sadly. We just need to keep our wits about us and have a bit of savvy. But more importantly, do what's the most important thing for us and our families, really. To be honest with you.
And I'm not going to sit here too worried about it. I'm still going to go about my day to day. But having said that, I'm going to risk assess. If I don't need to go into London, if I don't need to go and see someone, I'm not going to for now.
Just if you got like a hand sanitizer and stuff, you got some.
Probably, Dave. I haven't bought any. It's all gone from the
Because
supermarket.
you go to a store, you open the doors, you use the trolleys and all that.
I know. Do you know what I've been using? What do you call it? Like hand towel or something to open up the door. And putting it in the bin. And I'm a bit like, ooh, wash my hands.
Have you seen what the next thing is now? The latest craze. Now they've gone through all the toilet rolls. Although I would love someone listening to this to please tell me what exactly toilet rolls have got to do with this coronavirus. But they're now going.
The instruction from the World Health Organization is to catch the cough with a tissue.
With a tissue and throw it in a bin.
Yep.
Oh,
that's why.
For feck's sake, is that why? Oh,
or you do it in the crease of your elbow.
Yeah, if you haven't got it, just don't do it in your hands, because your hands. Yeah, you mustn't do it in your hands, because your hands then go and touch your nose, your eyes, or your mouth. And if you do that, you must drink water to wash it down to the acids in your stomach.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
If you catch you do the work, Paul. All right, catch a sneeze in your hand.
I don't need to. You're my mate. You're telling me. You do that for me. Thanks, Dave.
It's instinctive to catch a sneeze. So the reason tissue paper is have it in your pockets and catch it, then bin it, or go in your sleeves like that, But if you put it on your hands, you've got to immediately wash your hands, because if you then touch your eyes or your nose or your mouth, this is the main concern.
Right.
I mean, if it's easy, you've probably already got it. I mean, you can touch a surface that someone else has touched, having sneezed. And that's the problem. It's not the problem of you having it. Fine, you've got it. The problem is don't share it, and that is what the whole isolation thing's about. And that's what people aren't taking seriously enough. We were talking to Mr. Skirm this morning about this as well, and he's pretty strong with the idea of isolating, because people aren't listening and people are still sharing. It's one of the frustrations right now with the events still being public here, but around most of the world now, a lot of stuff's getting shut down.
Yeah, they're cancelling loads, aren't they?
Because if they stop sharing, it dies off after 3 weeks. If we stop sharing it today, it's dead in 3 weeks.
Yeah. So we need to go in a bunker in our garden and
just dig a hole in the garden.
Have some tin of beans.
There's no pasta left though. No more pasta. So
well, the madness at the moment I've seen in the supermarkets is people are buying alcohol like mad now.
Fuck.
They're using alcohol.
May as well enjoy it.
Well, I think they're using it for disinfecting and stuff. Alcohol.
There was a recipe on
of course
Facebook
they
for
are.
that. Yeah, rubbing alcohol. Yeah, but that's the main problem. Is people aren't taking it seriously because, you know, as you said at the beginning of this podcast, we have a little cold with this time of year. We're used to it. The problem is it's the people who are very vulnerable. If the fibrosis kicks in, they're not going to make it. And that's why the mortality rate with this one is significantly higher than any other. That's the problem. That's the problem.
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, luckily, we haven't got time in this podcast to talk about all the mad conspiracy theories that you get online. Otherwise, we'd be on this for 2 hours.
I've been looking into some of those about
they're just mad,
Trump.
Aren't they?
There we go. Yeah,
what's it called? Hang on. What's that hashtag?
No, we're not talking about the conspiracy theories because they're just bonkers.
I just want to say though that Trump is a knobhead, but there we go.
Can I just say that those are the views of Dan the engineer, not those of E5. So anyone listening to the CIA, please do not arrange to have me shot. But I can send you Dan's home address.
They already know it.
Anyway. Yeah.
Cool. Right, so what's the plan for you guys moving forward? Just to kind of be extra cautious.
I'm actually not going to Alex tomorrow.
You decided in the last hour you're not going.
Actually, I've just had a text from Kirsty. I've agreed with Kirsty that I'm not going to go. So I'm going to sit and type like the wind because I've got so much work to do anyway and catching up. When we finish this, I will upload this and release it straight away.
Cool.
It will just go live straight away.
So, Dave, what about you? What you doing moving forward?
Well, obviously, next week I've got 1 day course still in, and I've got on Wednesday the GIB conference with the ECS. I got an email from them yesterday to say they're going to follow the government's advice, which currently is still for things to go ahead. When I get closer to it, I'll have a good consideration. Now, unlike an exhibition where there's hundreds of people, this is a quite small affair.
Right. Where is it, Dave?
Huh?
Where is the exhibition? The GIB conference.
The GIB conference thing's in Birmingham.
Birmingham.
Yeah. So I will decide probably Tuesday night. Actually, I had Pete from Arena Training. He's thinking about meeting up for a drink night before, so I'll have to get back to him. But yeah, I'll decide the day before if I'm not going to go. It will be a case of how much, how much this is spreading and etc. But if I'm going to an isolated room with X amount of people and I don't have to kiss or cuddle them, and fundamentally. I don't tell
Mrs. Ninja.
Fundamentally, like an exhibition, the thing with the exhibition that I knew I couldn't stop is tools, picking up tools and handling things and shaking hands to people who come up to me and all that stuff. I wouldn't be able to avoid that. But this thing on Wednesday, I could probably avoid that. I could probably just stand at the back and be a miserable bastard like normal. So I'll decide. But that's what I've got next week. So otherwise, I'm basically working from home, trying to push Sparky Ninja ahead, putting some podcasts in with you chaps. Getting some paperwork done.
Yeah, I think we got Tuesday and Wednesday night recording, didn't we? So
yeah,
more good fun.
That's me. And the week after, I've got a course that is still on, but I will not be surprised if maybe tomorrow, Monday or Tuesday, I hear that it's been cancelled.
Listen, Dave, if we're all going to be self-isolating in the next few weeks, we'll end up doing daily podcasts.
Well, I put this on Twitter last night or the night before. Okay. If we're shut down for a couple of weeks, I'll stream some CPD so that bosses can then say to their guys, right, you're at home, but there's some CPD on offer, so that's some get good stuff. Something from it.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll just stream some content.
We need to do a podcast on emergency lighting as well. I got a text today about doing something on emergency lighting, and also Dave, I remember we spoke about doing that video as well on emergency lighting. I need to record that and.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. We've got stuff that we can be doing if work stuff stops. Yeah. We're always busy. Yes, but my thoughts really go out with the self-employed electricians at this moment. Really, finding the right answer to them and their families. It's hard.
I mean, things suck for me right now because things have been cancelled. But I know I have the magic wisdom to probably grind a bit of money out from some resources, earn a bit of money here or there. But the guys who actually live on the tools, work on the tools, and actually need to go out and earn their bread, I hope that this doesn't get too bad for them.
I know it sounds really weird, but I do hope there is some lessons learnt in this at the end of it as well. for everyone involved. I'm talking about government, self-employed guys. Because somebody said to me earlier on about self-employed guys. They should, they're on a higher rate, so they should have money stashed away. Absolutely not. Not a chance in hell. And my response was, until you've walked a mile in their shoes. And I guarantee you, they're living week to week, paycheck to paycheck. I remember when I was jobbing Sparks, it was every Friday couldn't come quick enough, and by Saturday evening it was gone. Yeah. I'd have maybe 40 quid in my wallet to do me to the next paycheck if I was lucky.
Yeah. And as we know, the industry the way it is right now, we're not at the top earning area of the industry and trades, are we?
Yeah, no,
especially for a lot of self-employed guys.
Not only that, like sort of pay in the electrical industry is probably better 15 years ago anyway, and the cost of living's gone right up.
Yeah. So this is something that once we just need to get through this, try and help each other as much as we can, be there for each other. But once we're out of it, the industry does need, or we do need to start thinking about making sure this doesn't happen again in a way that actually we're not in control of our own. We're not in. The problem is we're not in control of this, and that's what sucks.
Yeah.
Being told to do this and then you not having any control of your own revenue, feeding your own kids, that sucks. Measures need to be put in place to avoid this happening again.
Cool.
Okay.
We do need to probably remind everyone that this is just our opinions, and if they want to actually learn more about this right now, to actually go to the government website and maybe the World Health Organization and the official places.
Yeah.
And that information does change a couple of times a day.
Yeah.
And the guidance is changing daily. So
I just hope everyone stays sensible, looks after their family. And does the best they can, really. That's all we can do. Be nice to each other. Be sensible. Wash your hands.
Hopefully in 4 weeks, 3 weeks, we'll do a podcast going, what was all that nonsense about?
Yeah.
When everything's
this is the first time we've ever done a podcast on something that's happening immediately and then released straight away.
Yeah.
So there'll be people thinking, cool, what a bunch of bell ends doing this,
probably.
Doing that.
Yeah,
but you know what?
I think people think that anyway.
But Dan, part of the stresses and strains of mental health sometimes is talking through the problem. Come off it. We've just done podcasts on bullying and depression.
Do you know what? Yeah, the amount. Yeah, exactly. The amount of people that have messaged us privately about that, just hearing us talk openly about a topic.
Yeah.
I think communication is really important, and that could just be just saying how you feel about something and someone listening. That's all. That's it's therapy.
Yeah, true.
So right. Should we wrap this up then, guys?
Yeah, we will. All right. Pleasure.
Thank you, Dan.
Now look after yourself and each other. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.